Welcome, romance writers, uh, famous science fiction authors, and undead monsters powered by lightning, to the 342nd episode of An Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 19th of February 2020, and featuring The Haunting of Villa Diodati, written by Maxine Alderton and starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien, Tosin Cole as Ryan Sinclair, and Mandip Gill as Yasmin Khan. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
It's amazing an episode not co-written by Chris Chibnall this season actually has more to do with the season plot than the others.
Mad Matt Winchell.
My left hand isn't trying to kill me anymore.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair!
And Thomas Fireheart.
I am looking for Percy Shelley.
Hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah.
I'm looking for Percy Shelley.
The whole entry just reminded me. I'm sitting here going, "Oh my god,
Yep.
Terminator."
I was sitting there picturing Jodie Whittaker saying, "Come with me if you want to live."
Yeah, there were a few great pop culture quotes that could have been said in this and didn't. But we will talk about that on the second hour of our podcast tonight.
Yep.
So, how's everybody's week been?
Lots of
Not
school
too bad.
deadlines.
I saw a movie I wasn't expecting to be nearly as good as it was.
You're going to talk about that later in the podcast.
Yup.
So I went to a gaming store in town that we thought was going to be closed, but got bought at the last second. That would be Madison's famous Pegasus Games.
Mm.
Aaron dragged me in there for a book. I wound up standing for half an hour, which is why my back is still fucked up. Apparently, they're remodeling their sit-down gaming table room, and they're going to be remodeling the main store, I think, next month.
Yeah.
Because the new owners want to give it a new look.
Yeah, update the look, freshen things up a bit. Get rid
I
of some of the
bought
old
some
stank.
Is the con part of that bundle?
What con?
The one that didn't Pegasus buy out GeekCon at the end?
No, that was
No.
Geeks Mania.
Oh, okay. I'm mixing up
You
different
are way off
shops.
topic
Yeah.
there, my dude.
Yeah.
No, it's just a different shop. I don't live there, so I can make that kind of mistake.
No, Pegasus is famous because John Kovalic, the creator of such comic strips as Wildlife and Dork Tower, occasionally uses a parody version of it in his comics. Usually it's Pegasaurus Games, but yeah.
That being said, I still would argue it's probably one of the more popular local game shops.
Oh yeah, it's been a Madison institution since the 70s. I've been going there since 1990, so
Yeah, I think Randy was saying that's why people outside of Wisconsin would know about it.
yeah, people would know. The reason it's
I've
famous,
lived in Wisconsin all my life. I didn't know anything about it until I moved there.
Yeah, but you weren't big on comics or web comics.
Not web comics, regular comics, yes. I was a collector before I came to Madison.
Well, when I say comics in this bent, I meant comic strips. Wildlife was in the papers for, I think, 5-10 years. But Dork Tower started as a web comic, and I think they've made comic book collections of it since.
Now you got me curious. I gotta look. No, I don't think so. I don't think I've seen that. I don't think I ever saw Wildlife in the papers. Didn't reach here.
I knew it was in the State Journal. And I knew it was published nationally by some papers. There was sometimes a different version published in Madison that was published in the others because he would make some local pop culture references.
Ah.
Oh well. Anyway.
But we went in there. Like I said, it was fun, but I stayed on my feet way too long, and I'm paying for it now. Other than that, it's been quiet here. We had Irish stew for dinner on Monday because Aaron decided not to go into work because it freaking snowed from about 9 in the morning until midnight. I don't know how much snow we got, but we were only suspecting it to snow for like a couple hours during the day and a couple hours at night. And instead, we just got this constant deluge.
Ah,
Yeah, I was expecting maybe a couple inches. If we got closer to a foot, I think that particular run.
We were supposed to get freezing rain too, which is why I decided not to go anywhere. And then Aaron's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna stay home." And then it's like, it's snowing and it's not stopping.
I believe that snowing was is the reason why my left hand was killing me for a better part of 4 or 5 days.
see, when you said that, I was thinking it had something to do with Army of Darkness.
As
Yeah,
much
that
as
was
I
the
love,
other- that's-
as
that's
much as
the
I
other
thought that
vibe I was
reference
getting from
too,
this.
but no, that was not the reason I mentioned it. No,
It's like
I'm for the two of us that clean snow, I'm the one that goes out there with a shovel. And for those of you who haven't seen where I live, that's not a very short sidewalk, nor is that a very short driveway.
Yeah.
I've seen worse.
We have a driveway that goes down the hill to a 3-car garage.
Like I said, I've seen worse. I have relatives that live out in the country that have frickin'
I don't think you can say I've seen worse unless you're volunteering to clean it.
Yeah, you want to shovel worse, Randy? You can come on over and try.
I had to clean my grandparents' walk, which was 2 flights of stairs going up a hill, and very poorly maintained. Oh, I hated those things.
You can come over.
This is part of the reasons I live in apartments now, because we have people to do that for us.
Yeah, the pain that my hand was giving me was so bad at one point on yesterday. I was actually legitimately smacking it across my knee just to make it stop. It actually was helping a little bit. After waking up today, though, it's finally a lot better.
Well, at least my carpal tunnel's not bothering me anymore. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was. I hope I'm not getting carpal tunnel. That's the last thing I need to be dealing with every time I go shovel.
Where was the pain?
Like right around the wrist area, between the
Yeah,
right wrist and the thumb.
I know
The
at
inner
one
part of
point
your
I
wrist?
thought I was.
Not necessarily the inner part of my wrist. Like it was somewhere between my wrist and my thumb somewhere. It seemed to
No,
be.
that doesn't sound like carpal tunnel. Carpal tunnel
So
would
yeah,
be
I
in
might
your...
have just pulled a muscle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because carpal tunnel tends to be on the inside of your wrist, right where you've got those tendons.
Yeah, it wasn't just right there. No, it was also around the thumb area too. So I'm assuming it was something got pulled while I was shoveling the massive, heavy, wet mounds of snow.
What you would kill for a snowblower, wouldn't you?
That's what the other person's doing, but he can't catch everything.
All right. Anyway, on tonight's show, we've got some birthdays. We've got some news. We got some geek talk. We've got a review of Shame from Bill, who's still trying to catch up from like 2 seasons ago.
Yep.
We've got the episode summary and then a historical fact check on the 5 people at the Villa Diodati and how this treats them.
In short, oof.
Did we want to do a comparison between this and the Big Finish audio?
We could.
You could, but I would keep it brief because I don't know about the other 2, but I for sure never had time this week to listen to it, even though I tended to.
I know. I listened to it today, and Bill has listened to it. Anybody else manage to?
I did not. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
No problem.
I'll still put it in. And I'm just going to call that big
Or maybe we can just do a couple minutes on how they treat the historical figures differently.
because that's the big part. Because
Yeah.
there's no way to try to sandwich these into each other. So
No.
Yeah,
Other than to
maybe
say
focus
the
on
Time
that
War
and
did
leave
it.
it there.
I'm just going to call it Big Finish versus TV. All right.
Hmm.
All right. And then of course we've got our episode review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's get into this. Starting with birthdays, and we've got 3 birthdays. The first birthday is actor Simon Pegg, who played the editor back in 2005's The Long Game, and is better known as Scotty in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek trilogy, as well as the star of his own series of movies. He turned 50. And his birthday is Valentine's Day. Wow. On the 16th, or a few days ago, is the birthday of Christopher Eccleston, the Ninth Doctor, also from 2005. He turned 56. And then finally is the one of our honorable mention birthdays is Jeremy Bulloch, who played Hal back in 1974's The Time Warrior, but is best known as his role as Boba Fett in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Jeremy Bulloch turned 75. So happy birthday to Simon, Christopher, and Jeremy. And moving on to our episode news.
What's going on? Yep.
Oh, we've lost Thomas.
Oh.
Oh. Thomas, come back.
His headphones must have died. Again.
Oh.
So, overnight ratings for The Haunting of Villa Diodati are in, and it was watched by a total of 3.86 million viewers. That is a rise of about 0.5 million, 0.05 million from last week. 0.05 of a million. This equates to 19.7% of the total viewing audience and was the 7th most popular show on British TV Sunday. Was the 44th most watched overnight for the week. Doctor Who was again beaten by its direct ITV opposition, Dancing on Ice, which had 4.63 million viewers. Number 1 show for that day was Called the Midwife, as usual, with 6.5 million viewers. Country File was the lead into Doctor Who, and it had 4.91 million. Meaning, of course, that over 1 million people tuned out after Country File and before Doctor Who. Pale Horse, the Agatha Christie mystery, had 4.07 watching, and ITV1's Endeavour had 4.08 million watching. We should have the final figures for this episode next week.
All right. That's cool. Moving on.
Moving on.
The final ratings from the Broadcasting Research Audience Board are in for Can You Hear Me? And the answer was no, we couldn't be bothered. Officially, Can You Hear Me has 4.90 million viewers in the UK, a drop of 0.32 million. As Doctor Who dropped below the 15th most watched show that week, it is impossible to get 4-channel figures. In fact, this episode was the 35th most watched show across all television. It had a 21.6% share of the total TV audience. It did not beat out its opposition on ITV, Dancing on Ice, which totaled a flat 5.26 million viewers, and is the first time the show has slipped below 5 million since Series 10's Eaters of Light. This week's top show was ITV's Call the Midwife, with 8.21 million watching. The AI for Can You Hear Me was 78, tied for last week and 4 points under the Doctor Who average of 82.
Now, if I recall, did the BBC get angry when Eaters of Light didn't top 5 million?
I don't recall. All I know is that that's a huge low bar. Youch.
Yeah, this is getting down into the ratings sewer, unfortunately. I noticed the overnight has a slight rise, so hopefully we'll see it back above 5 next week.
Mm-hmm.
But
We'll have to wait and see.
Possibly
And I
when people
noticed
get,
the AI is not that low, so a lot of people didn't watch, but those that did liked it about as much as they've been liking the season so far.
which is still below what Doctor Who was getting under Moffat.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. For all our complaints about Moffat, it seems like people really don't like this season.
I'm wondering at this point if people are just putting their AI in by default too, because.
Hmm.
All right, so.
Okay, so we move on to next episode.
Mhm.
So we have the synopsis for Ascension of the Cybermen.
Which has
In
no
the
link.
What's that?
Which has no link.
Oh, well, it's
Is
just
it
a
the same link
synopsis.
as the images at the bottom?
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
Oh.
But it's not really that important.
Okay.
Okay.
So here, in the far future, the Doctor and her friends face a brutal battle across the farthest reaches of space to protect the last of the human race against the deadly Cybermen. The aftermath of the Great Cyber War. The Doctor arrives in the far future, intent on protecting. Oh, is that the same? Okay. But in the face of such a relentless enemy, has she put her best friends at risk? What terrors lie hidden in the depths of space, and what is Ko-Sharmus? Sounds almost like an Irish
I'm
name.
sorry about the double on that. It's apparently
Mm-hmm.
I tried to paste it together with the synopsis was
A short
cut in
version
half
and a
by
long
an
version?
advert.
Gotcha.
No, it was cut in half by an advert, and I had to try to paste it back together.
Ah. Interesting
I-
that there's no mention of gold.
Yeah,
Seems like they're retconning that out of existence.
I know. That would have been my first response. It's like, oh, somebody find some gold.
Yep.
Aren't you wearing a necklace? Is that made of gold? Yeah.
Right. The guest cast list. Patrick O'Kane as Ashad, the lone Cyberman returning from the Haunting of Villa Diodati. Julie Graham as Ravio. Branwell Donaghy as Patrick. Colin Byrne as Sergeant. Alex Austin as Yedlarmi. Matt Carver as Ethan. Rhiannon, or I think it's Rhiannon. Clements as Beskett. Orla O'Rourke as Meg. Andrew Macklin as Michael. Evan McCabe as Brendan. Steve Toussaint as Freecat. Ian McElhenney as Tectian.
Maybe. That's what the question mark is. He's not been on the cast list, but we know he signed up for the episode. And the only character we've heard of that doesn't have an actor attached is this Tectian. So,
And I
we're
think we
putting
can
2 and 2
safely
together.
say Nicholas Briggs as the Cyberman.
I don't know yet.
Don't know for sure.
With
It's
the amount
highly
of Irish
probable, but we don't know for sure.
with the amount of Irish actors, as well as the costumes and technology seen, it's possible some of the episode may be happening during the Irish Civil War of the 1920s, and we have photographs.
Yes. So, apparently these photographs are pieced together from a whole bunch of sources. So, because I've seen some of these in other news shots, but this seems to be the grand high list of them.
And the first one is the Doctor in a cyber conversion machine.
Yes.
The Doctor just seems to keep getting bound up this season.
Yeah.
Oh, only the second time. The Doctor's been bound up more often as a guy.
Mhm.
Well, if that keeps going through series 13, she might be known as the bondage doctor. I don't think she wants that.
Again,
I-
the other older male doctors have been tied up to tables and stuff far more often
know.
than this one
I
has.
know. Tom Baker.
I can't.
especially.
Yeah, I was about to say I can't remember how many times Tom has been tied to a table or left hanging with his hands over his head. Had to get
Those
sore
were
after a
dates with
while.
Romana.
It's like Tom Baker. I think have it happen nearly once in every serial.
Mhm.
Yep.
John
Surprising the
Pertwee
guy.
just got thrown
Surprising
into
the guy didn't walk
cells.
off set at one point with a gimp mask.
I'm wondering what that is Yaz is carrying in the second
I
image.
don't know. It looks like a
don't know.
thumper.
It almost does, like a cross between a thumper or some sort of rifle.
And it looks like Ryan may be holding another piece of it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That,
quite
they
possibly.
connect it. They
That's
connect it
possible.
together, so it might be some kind of
Mhm.
drill, or like, I don't know, some kind of like sonar, like ground detector or something.
Now that you say that, it looks like Graham, Ryan, and Yaz are all carrying different parts of it.
Oh, and actually, later on, Graham is sitting on what looks to be drill bits,
Yeah.
so that's possible that's part of a drill or something.
Possible. But if it's part of
Uh,
the same machine, then Graham got shrunk.
Right?
Doctor,
I was thinking it grew. Yeah. They use capsule technology or something.
And there's a
Scrolling.
close-up of Yaz with the device, which looks like it might be a Dr. Lash-up.
Right.
Wouldn't be surprising with this, right?
Followed by apparently a ship entering hyperspace.
Or in the
Or
vortex.
warp space. Yeah.
And then here's Ryan in what
Oh,
looks like the cyber
More
conversion.
bondage.
More cyber chairs for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and there's another one.
Yeah,
They're all
Yaz
looking-
not in a chair.
In the stunning conclusion of Doctor Who, the Doctor and the entire human race are converted to Cybermen. The end.
Yeah, that would be the most depressing thing in the world.
Yep.
And then we start getting into these pictures that make us think Irish War
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
or the Irish Civil War, because that looks to be 1920s-ish style outfits,
Right.
and that was when the Irish Civil War was. So it looks like, considering some of this, we might be going into multiple time zones again,
Mm-hmm.
kind of similar to Spyfall Part 2.
Right. Which makes me wonder, is it going to have to do with time traveling Cybermen or something else?
I think I found her device, by the way. There's a woman by a door, and then she seems to be shouting something. After that, we see Graham next to a guy, and I think that might be the device that they are carrying parts for earlier.
Possibly.
Which looks like an antenna of some sort.
Looks like it might be some sort of radar or sonar, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do we beat the Cybermen? We have to call the Daleks to come fight them.
You know, we were seeing some Daleks were seen in filming, but we don't know if it was for this or for the 2020 Christmas special.
Oh, Bill might have just spoiled it.
No, that's just predicting.
Just the way I predicted that the Cybermen might have something to do with inspiring Frankenstein in this episode.
Yeah, that was actually a good call.
Yeah, that was his call too. Spoiler king here.
But to be honest, I'd already thought of that. I just hadn't vocalized it. The Daleks.
Oh, Oh, actually, we can't really tell which time zone this set is in.
Which one?
The one with the lone Cyberman and the Doctor. The church.
It's the
they labeled
church,
it.
which looks like it's been hit pretty heavily.
So it might be in the
So I
1920s.
wonder if that's what the time travel revolves around, is the church in the 20th century and the church in the far future.
It might be. It might
Maybe.
be. Because if you look in the picture above it, the church looks pretty pristine. No, wait, no, there's some battle scars there. Never mind. I stand corrected. If you look at the tower, the bottom of the tower has some scoring.
Gotcha.
By the way, we seem to have a mixture of different Cybermen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are late RTD era Cybermen, it looks like.
Yeah, those are when they were late RTV, early Moffat was when they decided to try
the
to
Cyber
score
Legions.
Yeah, that's when they decided to score off the Cybus logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got
some sort of starship or other aerial device.
Some sort of aerial device. I'm not sure they're
They
ships.
might be. They're either suspended on power lines or they're flying. It's hard to tell which.
They look just like Cyberman heads.
Oh, Thomas is back.
Hello. Actually, you're right. They do kind of like they might be Cybermen heads almost.
So they're either Cyberman heads or Cyberman drop ships.
Oh yeah, I could see that. They're the descendants of what's his name?
Handles.
Yes. But now that I see it, they definitely. Now that you say that out loud, they definitely look like the back.
Yeah, it looks like the helmet
Cyberheads.
too, but they have the a jetpack added to
Mhm.
the back and the bottom of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they might be too big, in which case they might be drop ships that just shaped like
Just shape
cyberheads.
it like cyberheads. Yeah.
And then we've
perfectly
got
logical thing to do for a species with no sense of artistic design or irony.
well, yeah, they
Well,
weren't
look at the
supposed to have
Cylons. Judge me.
they weren't supposed to have emotions. Yet, if you listen to David Banks, there's definitely some
Yep.
satisfaction going on in that voice.
There is logic in what you say.
Excellent.
So,
Ooh, actually, it looks like they might also be coming out with a slightly re-altered new Cyberman.
yeah, we've seen this picture before. But this is the first clear. It was in the one of the half episode trailers where they first revealed the Cybermen. The thing is,
So
it
you're
went
saying the
by
very
so
last image is like a combination of new and old?
Yep.
It's like a combination of new and newer.
Mm.
Well,
Well,
it looks
no.
like it.
We started to see this faceplate design somewhere during the Capaldi era, I think.
Not quite like that.
Isn't
I
that the
feel like-
faceplate design from the 70s?
It
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
but
It's like they
that's
broke
like-
cues
with
from the
like a
70s
thing
and
around
updated it.
Yeah.
it's an updated version of the 70s faceplate design
Mhm.
with a straight
Yeah, I
mouth.
was gonna say.
It's the invasion style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's a modern take on sort of the invasion
The invasion,
slash
aka
general
what,
80s
60s or 70s,
Cybermen,
depending.
It
No,
would've
it's not
been
quite the 80s
59.
Cyberman because we'd see the jaw that would still move on the chin area.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not the
true.
80s style. But the
Yeah.
teardrop eyes,
The teardrop
the slit-
eyes and that
the
particular framed head look.
the slit for the mouth were all definitely
Mhm.
invasion slash Revenge of the Cybermen.
Um,
I just ignore Revenge of the Cybermen because the Cybermen were done really badly in it. So much so that they didn't have any vocal modulation.
You can't ignore everything that's badly done in Doctor Who.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I can if I have a better reference, which I do. The invasion.
It is interesting because, like, the first time I saw them, I'm like, oh, it's okay. It's like a flatter version of the big, like, the massive headphone Cyberman design. At least as far as the side bits go.
The side bits, the piping and everything are all very much indicative of the invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's very much a modernized invasion look. I don't
Speaking of
recall
which,
this
now that
actually
I
showing
say
up
that-
before now, but
Yeah.
maybe they hit
now that
they-
now that I compare those to headphones, I kind of want those.
it.
Just
It looks so
Cyberman
much more
headphones.
comfortable than my current set.
I mean, they were headphones in Pete's World.
So I am giving you a 300 by 300 image. I'm posting it in the podcast channel of the invasion Cyberhead.
Yeah.
So you
yeah,
can see
yeah.
where there's similarities in the eye the little eye teardrops, the slit for the mouth, the little ridges on the side of the head. That's different, but that's similar.
Yeah.
And then I think the piping itself is more reminiscent of the 80s Cybermen with the little thing on the bottom.
Yeah, the extra thing on the bottom and then
Yeah.
slightly
Yeah.
upgraded beefiness in the middle. Yeah.
Right. The Image Comics jaw outline.
And they still have the little light, but it's a redesigned version of the little light thing on the front.
Okay, and just for your reference, here is a about the same size picture of the 80s Cybermen. Just for your memory. And you can see what I mean by that little wedge on the bottom.
Yep. I can remember these perfectly fine, but I'm sure some of the others need these references more than I do.
Yeah, I'm not good
I
at
could tell my
visualizing
Cybermen
that
by
way,
a glance.
so
Yeah.
like if they were all in front of me, I could probably say I would say which era is which, but visualizing it without a reference, I'm not wired that way.
So it's almost like you took the 80s Cybermen head and then put a 70s, 60s Cybermen faceplate on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you added modern lighting and a new modernized body to it.
Well, no. Well, yeah, the top bit is definitely a more modern look.
Iron Man chest plate.
And the Iron Man chest plate, which the fan base is still bitching about, at least some of them. And of course the new
they're not
what do you call them?
wrong.
What do you call the shoulder pieces? Oh, come on.
Cauldrons?
Shoulder pads?
Cauldrons?
Pauldrons, yeah, the new pauldrons on the sides are. Thank you. I couldn't remember that term. I knew it started with P.
They've got pauldrons. They've got jaw outlines. What they need is they need pouches.
Apparently, some of the fan base also referred to the fact that the helmet kind of comes down on the sides of the mouth. They refer to that as cyber sideburns.
Actually, it kind of makes them look like Romans, like a Roman Legionnaire's helmet. So
Still, I
cyber
actually
Legionnaires?
I think it looks kind of cool.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, I like the way it combines.
It's
old
a nice
and new
combination of a
elements
variety
so
of
that
ideas, but yeah.
It feels familiar, but it's not an exact replica, so they can still sell. Well, I don't know how much they're motivated by toy sales, but
at this point, BBC is begging for every penny.
Oh yeah, this is going. Oh yeah, we could sell this. We could sell this as
Oh,
an action
these look
figure.
actually really good. Get all the figures out there now. Make sure they're chrome.
Two new Cybermen designs in one season. Toy sales will go through the roof.
Especially if any one of them catches on, it's really looking really cool. Maybe we should make the new models light up. Oh,
that wouldn't surprise me.
Introducing new Cybermen Nightlight.
I don't think they've had lights on decent sized action figures for about 10 years.
To be honest, this faceplate design is what 90% of people think of when they think Cybermen.
Yeah.
More or less.
I do think it's more iconic than the RTD era one.
Mm-hmm.
It's more iconic than any era of Cybermen, really.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it's that and the early 10th Planet Cybermen are the most iconic, and and the 10th Planet one is the one that looks lamest.
Yeah, that's the least cybery.
Yeah, that's
so it's like the 10th Planet one.
As much as certain people woo over the 10th Planet Cybermen, I've never really been a huge fan of them. They're an interesting sidestep, but they're not my favorite.
The 10th Planet ones are really creepy, but they're not as cyber. They're not as likely to draw people, especially in the 21st century. Whereas
the second Doctor Cybermen were definitely a step in the right direction, though.
Because the ones prior to that, they just made the faces look more metallic, and they still looked really kind of jerky until you got to the Invasion Cyber. And then the Invasion Cybermen were just like,
Well, that's also where, like, in the 60s, they were basically updating the Cybermen every time they appeared until the Invasion, and they were like, okay, now we've got this.
Yeah,
and then they threw them in a storage
by the time they
room
got to the Invasion version, they're like, oh, that's perfect, and they reused them for Tom Baker's Doctor Who, and they just painted one of them.
The problem was they threw them in a
slightly.
storage room for 5+ years.
Yeah.
Took them out and didn't do anything good with them.
Well, like I said, they only just painted the handlebars on one of them and made him leader.
Yeah.
Because that totally.
Although that did set a trend.
It's that trend, but that didn't really push much there.
It would have been nice if we saw more of that design with the Pertwee Doctor.
Would have
Mm.
been nice if they
Yeah.
would have just spent more time to try and upgrade them slightly, but oh well.
Mhm.
Yeah, we never
Mm.
really. Yeah, Pertwee never did deal with the Cybermen, so.
And
It's
Tom only got
ironic
the one
considering the
chance. And it
entire
was an old
the
model.
entire Pertwee era is basically a sequel to the Invasion.
So yeah, there you at the bottom here you can just take a quick look at the evolution of the Cybermen up to the Cybus era. There's the 10th planet that and yeah, the one that people remember the most is the Invasion. Followed probably by the 80s Cybermen, which made the most appearances.
Oh,
Mm.
got another image. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
So
then
basically, the eyes have pretty much been consistent since
Mhm.
at least Tomb of the
Yeah.
Cybermen, I
Yeah.
think.
with the little teardrop design.
Well, the
Yeah.
80s one doesn't have the teardrop.
Yeah, they lost the teardrop during the 80s. It just became a
Mm.
disc.
Hmm. But that's a good thing RTD brought back. Yeah,
Yeah.
at least I think he did. Unless
No,
Moffat
he
did.
did not. Moffat.
Oh, so Moffat brought it back. Okay.
Yep. Moffat brought it back, and I will give Moffat credit for that. The teardrop design is
Mhm.
iconic.
That
Are you
was one of
sure?
the best scenes
Are you
of
sure
the.
Russell T didn't bring it back?
I'm sure because Russell T used almost constantly the Cybus design,
Mhm.
and the Cybus design didn't have the teardrop.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like it does.
Yeah, because I swear it
It's
does.
just not as. It's maybe not as prominent.
It's not as
looking.
prominent, but I'm pretty sure it's there. Yeah, it is.
It's hard to tell in the
Yeah, like-
new images because of the scoring. It's hard to tell what's a teardrop and what's battle damage.
Here, actually, matter of fact, is that a? No, that's not a very good image. This one's a good image. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, it was kind of more of a slash rather than the teardrop itself.
It's it was like a rounded edge slash, yeah, but it's still a pseudo teardrop.
Yeah, it's just a matter of it's not as prominent, so you can't see it well from a distance.
Yeah, I didn't remember it in the original Rise of the Cybermen,
I do.
but I guess.
Oh yeah, I can see it in some of the images there, but it's not as prominent like you guys said.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, here I am.
Mhm.
Copy and paste. Why didn't you copy? I said to copy. Now please listen. Now paste.
But it definitely looked like it definitely came out looking a lot closer to the original in the newer plates. So
There. The 50th time trying to tell it to copy. There. And you have tent there in the foreground.
Mhm.
I very clearly see the slitted teardrops. Anyway.
Yep. Anything else about the pictures? Since
No,
we've
I
kind of
think-
dissected the Cyberman design.
I think we've gotten to the bottom.
Mhm.
We've got raced to the bottom of that particular tangent.
Yeah.
Raced to the bottom and then burrowed into the bottom image for about 10 minutes.
Well, actually, there's one more thing.
Okay.
The chest plate is very reminiscent of the Nightmare in Silver design.
Yes.
Yeah.
With that, I can't really tell if they've got the metallic abs that the Nightmare design had. If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to
obviously
see the full frontal.
full frontal Cybermen. Yeah.
Yep.
We'll have to see. And it looks like they redid the light, but that's not surprising. The helmet, of course, is a complete redo. And then we'll have to see because we haven't really seen the bottom half of these puppies yet. But the little crosshatch, kind of almost like stylized bird look, is definitely from Nightmare in Silver.
Double check something really quick. Okay, yeah.
So yeah,
our cranky emotional Cyberman very much has their chest plate.
So we'll have to see how that holds up.
Mhm.
Now that we've dissected the images, let's move on to the next article. That would still be you, Bill.
Oh,
Filming.
did I scroll down too far?
Yep.
I did scroll down. Oh, because it's a short blurb.
Yep.
Quick piece of news from Gallifrey 1. Producer Tracy Simpson told the audience that Series 13 is set to begin filming in September 2020.
Now, that, I believe, is a few months after filming for this season started. So that might mean a March or summer airing for Series 13.
That may have been what prompted. I know Radio Times did an article about, is it realistic to expect a Doctor Who season every year? I did not read that article because it didn't sound like news, just opinion. But
You know, I mean, Russell T. and for the first couple seasons, Moffat managed to crank it out, but ever since then, it's kind of like,
been getting lazy.
Yeah.
In a way, I kind of figured it was like the thing that I get from this is basically that Chibnall did one, and then wanted to see what people thought of it, took that into account, and then moved forward.
Problem is, 2 isn't going too well either as far as ratings.
Matter of fact, I think 2 has kept some of the issues, and maybe even made a few of them worse. It's not been much of a course correction, although last episode was at least decent. Now, we'll see how the rest of the next 2 go.
Anyway, yeah, let's go into the cast and crew news.
Okay, according to a Radio Times interview with Mandip Gill, none of the current Doctor Who companions have filmed exit scenes. However, as of now, none of them have been approached, much less signed for Series 13, leaving their participation in the next series questionable.
Does that mean they're out? No. But
Does
it doesn't
that mean
they're
in? No.
right.
Yeah.
And as we discussed amongst ourselves before we started filming, it's also entirely possible that all the actors were told to lie and to say something like that about next season.
And technically, I don't think they've filmed the special yet. So, if there is
for
in fact,
probably
a
New
special
Year's
this
21.
Year, it's either it's supposed to be like a Christmas one for this year, or maybe they'll push it back a bit to New Year's.
Chibnall doesn't seem to like Christmas.
Yeah, I know, but I think the BBC is breathing down their throats for him to do a Christmas.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it could be that they're bringing down start to do a Christmas one instead because, dang it all, your New Year's numbers aren't doing it.
Now that I think about it, have we actually had companions leave in a special before? Because I feel like that's more of a...
I was going to say, yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
Technically, Bill left in a special.
Actually, no, they tend to leave before the special.
Yeah, they usually tend to leave like before, so either the Doctor can have a one-off companion or...
We've had one of them introduced during a special.
A few.
Yep.
So basically,
Was
if
Bill
any
the
of
only
them...
one to leave during a special? And I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going back, and I'm not remembering because all of the Doctors, all the 11th Doctor's ones were done mid companion or between companions.
For some reason, I thought the 11th Doctor had people leave during a special, but I guess not.
No, let's see. The Series 5 one was mid companion. The Series 6 one was
companion.
Was companion free. The special it was. I mean, there's still the companions were still there. They just
companion light.
Yeah. Then the Series 7 mid one was between companions. Technically, it was Clara, but not Clara.
Yeah, they left in the episode before Christmas, which was a month or a few earlier.
And then then the one after that was the Doctor's Regeneration. So that was also with Clara.
Do we count Wilf?
No, we do not count Wilf.
Okay.
Because that was a whole ending house right there.
Yeah.
Right. That was everybody goes.
Yeah.
So no, we haven't really had a companion leave.
Everybody goes so we can have the loneliest
Mhm.
doctor.
Yeah, the only one I was thinking of was Bill. So yeah.
Mm.
Anyway.
And even then, she technically like died and then became like this entity beyond
Or
human
something.
comprehension
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Anywho.
Anywho, let's move on to our Big Finish news, the only news we have left.
Wow.
Jacob Dudman narrates the 12th Doctor's first Big Finish outing in the 12th Doctor Chronicles. Ingrid
Is-
Oliver guest stars as Odgood, and Samuel Anderson as Danny Pink.
I'm just about to say.
Love the audible
God,
change
Danny.
in your voice there.
4 new episodes, including Charge of the Night Brigade by David Llewellyn, War Wounds by Mark Wright, Distant Voices by Elizabeth Miles, Field Trip by Una McCormick. Doctor Who, the 12th Doctor Chronicles, is available now as a collector's edition CD box set at just £22.99, or as a digital download for just $19.99 from BigFinish.com. Yeah, there's only 2 voices that will get me to do that when we're talking about Big Finish: Danny Pink and River Song.
Oh, Modern Who,
Also-
you've done it again. You've made it Randy annoyed.
Danny.
Also
Pink.
out, yeah, and both can be solely blamed on Stephen Moffat. Also out, Jamie becomes a movie star in this month's short trip. Fraser Hines narrates the tale set in Paris, 1908. There, the Doctor meet director Celine Tessier and are recruited into the movie industry with all its ups and downs.
Ooh,
Doctor Who
1908.
Short Trips, Deleted Scenes is available now to download exclusively from the Big Finish website for just £2.99.
I'm curious what era of Jamie this is, like in terms of, is this Jamie who's still getting used to modern things, or is this like veteran Jamie who like understands the 20th century?
I don't know. It didn't say.
I'm impressed that they didn't go with the more obvious choice of George Méliès.
I don't know. They just mentioned that one, so. And then finally out this season, or out recently, Martha Jones returns to Torchwood in Torchwood Dissected, where she teams up with Gwen Cooper to deal with a dead body. An unusual one. I'm not saying too more of this because we've mentioned this one before. Torchwood Dissected is now available to buy at £7.99 as a digital download, or £9.99 as a collector's edition CD. And that's, I believe, the monthly release for Torchwood this month. All right, that is our news.
Mm-hmm.
So then we could go into Geek Talk while Randy takes a quick break.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so
Starting
Remember,
with
no more than
stopwatch.
than 5 minutes per
5
article.
minutes, yep. And
assuming
we're
yeah,
it's got
starting
the
with the
stopwatch.
Night of
given
the...
we have
Oi.
yeah.
Not everybody wants. I'm starting with Night of the Hunters, so after you.
Yep. So yeah, they in the past couple of years they've started doing this thing where they're showing there's 2 lots of showings. One is Hollywood classics and there's another one that's primarily just 70s to 90s movies. But in this case, I almost didn't go to this one, but then I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll give it a shot. Who knows? And by the end it won me over, but the first like third of it was like, well, this is happening. It's just kind of like, it's not bad, but it's just kind of like,
Is it one of the hour-long movies, or is it actually a full hour and a half?
Oh god, I forget, but it went like, I'll put it this way: the showing I went to, the actual like session started at 6 o'clock, and the session ended at like almost 7:45.
So these movies
depending
were
on
roughly
how
about
long
an
the
hour
ads,
each, if there's like 3 of them.
yeah, and it was just like, it was interesting because this movie was just like, yeah, it's weird. Like the movie isn't bad, but it's just like at first it's like, well, yep, this is an old movie, all right.
Yeah, I noticed that a
um,
lot of like earlier films tend to be a slow burn, but when they start kicking in, they really kick in.
yeah. Um, yeah, because like the whole thing, and it's funny because like the intro seems so far out of left field to start with. When I after like having read the summary about like, oh, this psychopathic fucking preacher dude is after this money and he's gonna do whatever it takes to get it, and but then it opens with like, hey kids, remember all this religious stuff I told you about? And I'm just like, what the fuck? Where's this coming from?
Oh
And
wow,
it's
I'm
just like
seeing
a bunch
I'm
of
looking at some more of the stills here. The preacher has like love or something tattooed on his fingers.
yeah, love
Oh,
on
love and hate.
one,
Oh my
hate on
god.
the other.
Okay, that's where that comes from.
um,
And I see a still
and
here of someone holding like a revolver or something in their lap, or a rifle maybe.
it might be a rifle.
And they're in like a rocking chair on like the front porch or something.
Yeah. That'd be a rifle from what I can recall. But yeah, it's just like the first third of it's kind of like, and then it picks up, and then I'll give them credit. By the end of it, they had completely won me over. The tension was like, oh fuck, because there's like this song, I forget like most of the lyrics, even though they sing it like it's like the psycho dude has like one song that he's continuously singing, and it's just um by the last time it happens, and he's just like they're waiting for him to show up, and you just hear leaning, leaning, and I'm just like, oh fuck. Like that actually affected me, and I was just like, oh shit, they is probably fucked right now. But yeah, so it was just like, damn, I'll give this movie credit. It a movie from the fucking 50s still managed to
You'd
to
be
get me with the
surprised.
tension.
I'm still an avid fan of the Metropolis movie from 1920s.
Oh yeah, I guess it's just like,
That thing's a high pitched breath taker in the last act
yeah,
especially.
yeah. And again, I guess it's just the fact that like the first third or so was just kind of like, okay, this isn't bad, but it's like whatever. But then by the end of it, it's just like completely changed. Like it actually gets into high gear, and it's just like, okay, now you've got me.
Yeah.
Of course, the funny thing was, after the fact, realizing that this was supposed to be taking place in the deep south, and after that, after realizing that, I was like, no one sounds like it. Like no one's really attempting. Maybe the villain sort of puts on a bit of a southern twang, but there's no one's like really
Actually,
going
to be
for it.
honest, I've been to the South a couple of times. People don't have as much of a twang as you think they do. At least not all the time.
I mean, like, I guess it's just funny because some of them are trying to be like, say all these very stereotypical southern phrases or southern sounding phrases and all this, but it's like, wait, are we supposed to be in the South? Where are we? Because I forget if they ever actually tell you where this is set, so it's just like some random place, and like some of them sound like they're at least sort of southern, but others, like, fair enough that like one of the kids does, but I think one of the other kid, the older kid that you follow, just like doesn't at all, from what I can remember. So it's just like,
Well, kids are
so
also
wait,
hard to get
how
that down
deep
with
south
too,
are we?
to be honest.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
we're over
Though
5 minutes, by the way.
I will admit the kids do pretty well. Like
Despite that, yeah.
for like 4 kid actors, it's like, you'll give them a pass usually, unless they're like absolutely horrible. But even then, it's like, well, they're kids, fair enough.
All right, we're at 6 minutes.
Yeah. But yeah, I would honestly say go check this out. I don't know if I would say this is like one of the best movies ever made, which some people seem to think, but yeah.
I've seen some references to this apparently around, so now it scratches my itch of interest.
So yeah, moving on
Alright.
from that to a
Recent.
recent release.
Yeah,
1917.
1917.
Yeah. Which was one of those things where I'm pretty sure it didn't come out in Australia until, or at least if it came out in Australia last year, it was either very late or we got it
It was
like
very
a
late
month
over here
later.
too, so
Yeah. Oh, that was it. It was it was most places it was released in December last year. A lot
yeah,
of
it was
I
essentially
think
like November,
I think it's
December release,
yeah,
essentially.
I think Australia it didn't get released until somewhere in January here. Which is why I put like 2019/2020 because I wasn't sure.
It,
But yeah,
it went to the Oscars for last year, so
yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie. I will admit I only really went to see it because I was like, oh, it's a war movie. My dad will like that. So I dragged my dad along. And he definitely enjoyed it as well. The interesting thing about this movie that was just such a bizarre experience is the fact that it is two different continuous shots. I think from what I remember reading, some places have been describing it as one continuous shot the whole way through. And I will tell you, if it was one continuous shot the entire way through, this movie would be 6 hours long. Because it starts in the day, there's an edit, then are at night. Or like very early morning. Because it starts off dark, but then by the end of the movie it's daylight again.
well, continuous shot doesn't mean that it stays there like for the entirety of a day. It's just that everything is placed like it's supposed to
Oh
be.
yeah. There's no edits. It's one long shot like
So
that.
it's edited together to
One
look
in
like one long shot, which
yeah.
is we've been able to do trick photography
Um,
for that technically since like about the 80s or 70s.
mm.
If
I'll
you
put it this way:
if you ever see
if
the
this
original Escape from New York, there's actually a lot of good scenes for that.
yeah. I'll put it there are a few moments I noticed where it's like, well, we just went into the darkness for a sec, so there's probably a cheat there that they could have
Yeah,
like
that's
okay,
just
if we
how
have
Tom
to go
Carpenter
back
did it. Yeah, you just kind of go to a
it's
spot where it
like
just gets dark enough you can't quite see anything, and then it comes back.
yeah. So it's
Yeah,
like there are a few
and
moments
as long as it's
where
got the same momentum, you don't know the difference. Haha.
yeah. Yeah, there are like a few especially because like you're gonna Foley the noise in later. You're not using the live sound necessarily. So it's like there were moments where I was paying attention because I'd heard that this was like had a lot of like they said it was one, but it was more like two continuous shots. It was shot to make it seem as though it was like broken up into two continuous shots, and there are very there are like at least 2 or 3 moments I think throughout where it's like okay, they could have definitely cut here, or like okay, shit, we fucked up, so let's go back to this point and then just kind of gone from there. But yeah, it is so surreal because it makes the movie feel like it's way longer than it actually is, but not necessarily in a bad way. But it's just like you're so used to editing that to like convey like okay, you know, whereas like Lord of the Rings walking montages and stuff like that, where it's like here's a conveyance of how long it took to get from here to here, whereas this is like it's literally them walking for like 20 minutes and having a well, not 20 minutes, but
But it
like
would like
5
tuck behind
minutes
something and come back
walking.
out, and you're supposed to assume time passed.
Well, yeah,
Basically.
it's a lot of walking. They very rarely stop. It's like there'll be like a stretch of 5-10 minutes where it's just like they're out in the open, there's no edit, nothing, and it's just like walking for most of it. They'll get somewhere, check it, blah. And yeah, it's just this is a movie that I'm like, as interesting as this was to do,
20 seconds.
I do hope that this is not like some other people go, oh well, that got Oscar noms, let's try doing this as well. No,
No,
Like,
the continuous shot
it-
is something you want to do sparingly. I think
Yeah,
the last
it
time
worked
that
for
was
this,
done
yeah.
popularly was for Birdman. Is that the name of it? I forget what the name of it was. Anyways, 5 minutes. Last thoughts.
Yep. So yeah, I would generally recommend people see this, but yeah, just as a heads up, like the continuous shot nature of the bulk of it is just gonna, like, before the edit and then after the edit is just gonna make it like seem longer than it is. So that might throw people off.
All right. Stop, reset, close that, and for my one entry into the Geek Talk for today, open this up really quick. Gotta try and find a bloody image of it. All I keep seeing is like the old posters and stuff. It's like, gosh, this is so annoying. You guys really did a bad job of trying to advertise the update. Anyway, I finally went to Sonic the Hedgehog this weekend. It just came out. Apparently my friends just happened to have an opening at exactly the right time, so we went. You know what? They actually bothered to update it. They actually listened to fans. Let's go see what they did. I was not expecting it to actually be as good as it was. There's actually genuinely funny moments. They did a few fart jokes for the kids, but they didn't like overstay their welcome or anything. There's actually a quick background setup for Sonic, and there's actually a setup for the fact that Sonic will actually call Robotnik Eggman in the movie. His thing is that he gave a whole bunch of people in the town he lived around in secret nicknames because he didn't catch what their real names were most of the time. Like his main human buddy, who is a sheriff, he calls Donut Lord because
Mr.
he always
Egg,
does
or-
these weird things with donuts before he eats them. His I believe girlfriend or wife, I'm not sure. They didn't really mention for sure what their status was. She was known as Pretzel Lady. And because of all the egg-shaped robots, Robotnik was referred to as Eggman.
Mm.
So they managed to get both names in there, which I was just pleased to see. It's like, okay, you didn't forget all the names. You didn't go with one side of it either. You technically gave them both. There's some actual decently heartfelt moments. There's enough good comedic moments, enough action to keep you going through the movie. The end was actually a really nice touch. The what we find out about is that the rings are kind of used as portals for Sonic, and he has a bag full of them. As a matter of fact, at one point he actually does lose all his rings and has to quickly grab them back up before he runs off again. So that was amusing to see. He uses the rings at the very end to essentially teleport to a couple of different places on Earth before going back to the town he's been hiding at. And that's where the big final confrontation goes down before he knocks Eggman into another dimension.
so
Um,
it's set up for the sequel to take place in the games universe.
basically. There's definitely a possibility of that. Eggman essentially threatens that he'll be back by Christmas, as he is wandering around going even more crazy in Fungus Land. And there's also another reference. Do you guys want the final spoiler at the end of the movie?
You should probably stay away from
Probably
spoilers.
stay away from that. All right. So staying away from that, at least for right now. Good action. Some decent jokes. We actually got chuckles out of everybody that was there, so that's usually a good sign. I will say that if they do decide that they're officially going to go for a sequel, I wouldn't mind going to see how things go for the sequel because they don't have to set up as much.
I mean, it seems to be making decent money from what I've heard. Apparently, it's kicking Birds of Prey's ass.
Yeah, big time.
What?
That's a pretty low bar.
And that's, as a lot of people have been pointing out, they're made for completely different audiences. One's and they have completely different ratings. So it's hard
Well,
for
yeah.
one to kick the other's ass when they're
Yet
not really
people kept
competing.
pushing that there's somehow something linked to between them on Twitter since before Sonic even came out.
My thing has always been, and why this actually doesn't surprise me is one, no one was hyped for Birds of Prey. No one that I know of who even was interested
'Cause
in the
they didn't
movie was not
advertise it.
necessarily.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was
Yeah.
out until after it's.
Yeah, was yeah.
I knew it was
like,
out. I wasn't
there wasn't
interested because it
really-
was leftovers from the Man of Steel run. I'm not
They
interested
put
in
all the
that
advertising into Joker.
because they had something there.
Um,
Also, the
but
fact
yeah,
that none of the
like-
characters outside of Harley Quinn even look like their characters was already a
it's
hard
funny
sell for
because that
me.
bothered
Gail
me
Simone
going.
said they did a great Black Canary.
She's
Like, I liked the movie,
not
but it was a matter of. But I did have that kind of thing
remotely.
if no one really looked like their iconic.
Yeah,
I mean,
none of
to a
them.
point, some characters fair enough because they're gonna have like outfits that aren't gonna look as good on screen, but still.
I would argue that, especially when Black Canary is already in Arrowverse, there's no reason to get that wrong, and they got highly wrong, just in appearance.
Yeah, like I'll put it. Yeah, like it bugged me going in, but once I saw the movie, it didn't. So.
Ahem.
Anyway, yeah, we're going to asides. As I said, for Sonic, I wouldn't mind going to actually go see it, the sequel, and if they decide to make it. Oh, also they made an Alter Beast reference. That's all.
Moving on, since you're half a minute over your schedule. Be back to Thomas.
Yeah, we'll go back to Thomas. Your Yoshi game here.
Yep. The funny thing is I actually got through this once I actually like committed, because at some point I was just trying to get all these little costumes that you can get in game, and then after a while I was like, you know what, screw it, I just want to get through it so I can cross it off the list. Which sounds like I'm like knocking the game, but no, it's a very fun game. It's a typical Yoshi game with a gimmick, basically. Of how the graphics and like, I mean, it's called Yoshi's Crafted World, so everything looks like it was made on a kids TV show, or like specifically, God, I don't know what the American equivalent would be, because I can only ever think of the Australian equivalent of like Play School, and like the UK, I guess maybe Blue Peter, but I can't really think of what.
I don't think America really has anything
American
like
equivalent.
that.
Maybe sort of like if they had like an arts and crafts kind of a thingy on like maybe Sesame Street or something.
That would probably be the closest thing, yeah.
Yeah. It was like,
I mean,
hey, let's take all these.
I can think of things that might have used to exist for that, but
yeah, those died a long time ago for us.
Yeah.
I think Captain Kangaroo is probably one of the last ones.
Captain Kangaroo might have been one, yeah.
Because yeah, like a lot of the things look like dioramas and that some kid made, which is funny because part of me, when I was watching someone else stream it, was just kind of like, you know, it really would have been kind of fun to just dick around and have to design all this stuff, because they probably made some of this stuff physically. Like there's a cobbled together looking Yoshi mech thing that you need for the odd level here and there. Where really all you can do is like jump, and you have like, you technically have two, but you only ever see the one because it's a side on. But you have like these two like big boxing glove fists, and you have to like hold down to rear back and then punch out. But yeah, it's like the game is really fun. It's cute as fuck. Like, holy shit. Like, it was just like fun. It was just fun to play. And like, if you have a Nintendo Switch and you want a game that's like, it's not overly hard, and it's just like a fun experience and takes you back to like good childhood memories and stuff, I would say give this a shot. It is well worth it.
Kind of reminds me of Kirby's Yarn, which is apt for Nintendo, to be honest.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's like, there was Kirby's Epic Yarn, then there was Yoshi's Woolly World, and this is like
the sequel, Crafted World, yeah.
Essentially, yeah. it's technically standalone, but it's that same kind of thing of like a Yoshi. It's basically a typical Yoshi game, but there's a gimmick attached.
All right. So we actually
Nintendo
cleaned
does
that one
like
up early.
gimmicks.
All right. So we can move on
Hooray!
to our review of Shame by Bill.
Yes,
And what's the review? Shame.
Shame.
it is the Ark from the first Doctor.
All right. When did we do this?
We did this April 2019.
Beginning of season 12. Okay. These are the first of 4 that Bill missed at the beginning of season 12.
And that must have all been for finals and related issues because I would not have been traveling at that time.
A couple of them, I think you were working late.
Oh, yes, that's right. They kept calling me into work Wednesday nights. Yes.
Shame.
But
Anyway.
yes, so the Ark. I kind of went into this blind. I knew basically the information you learn in episode 1. So I was not spoiled as to the twists and turns. I loved seeing the Doctor so young that he doesn't immediately recognize an Ark ship. Favorite things about the episode, I liked that even though it seemed like they were going that way, they didn't quite go the like monoids bad, refugees bad route. But instead there was more nuance and there was a give and take involved. Ironically, this did kind of end with preaching at the audience because I guess they didn't quite get the message through well enough. So the Doctor had to say, yes, the problem here was that the humans were too racist to the refugees. But at the same time, it was good that they were able to portray that in some way. Because at first I thought that they were just going to go monoids bad. I like that they took the route of showing how time traveling can pass diseases. I actually wish we saw that a little bit more, but it's funny seeing that so soon after I criticized some of the medical stuff in Praxius. What I disliked was the Doctor and Steven yelling at Dodo for sneezing. Because when someone's sick, they can't just be quiet to stop their sneezing. That was a little rude and unnecessary. My favorite scene was seeing number 2 get his comeuppance by the Invisible Man. little Star Trekky as well, but although they probably did not get the idea from Star Trek. But it was still funny just to see him. He's blustering around, and then he gets basically told to fuck off by this who knows how powerful being.
Shame.
I don't know
Shame.
if I had a least favorite scene.
They are strong enough to at least have built all those homes by themselves.
Yeah, true. So yeah, I'm thinking my overall score is 4.5 for this episode.
All right. A 4.5 will do absolutely nothing to the average for this episode, as it was averaged to a 4.6.
Except Thomas apparently was didn't hate it, but was not as much of a fan as most.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually have been meaning to rewatch it, but when I was recording it for you, I didn't. So it was just like, oh well, I'll do it at some point. But I remember just getting very distracted very easily when trying to watch it.
I do find it interesting. I know that they were made in completely different eras, but it's interesting that the humans of this time zone remember Britney Spears, but not the common cold.
Yeah. The thing about this one, Bill, is it held a special place in my heart, as this was the first ever serial of Doctor Who I ever saw. So there's no way I couldn't give it anything less than a 5.
Got you.
Because
The first one I saw was Rose, and I didn't give that a 5.
Yeah, but for me, this was like, what is this? This is fascinating.
I could see that.
Especially since I was watching it on my grandfather's old, like 1960s era black and white TV.
Granted, I don't
Sweet.
think Steven and Dodo are the best companions to introduce someone to Doctor Who with, but it's
Well,
a very good story to introduce the
whole
idea of the show.
concept of them getting into the TARDIS and coming back 100 years later, I'm just like, what? Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Right.
And I've never seen that again.
Yeah, that's a great way to. That aspect of it is a great introduction to the show.
In a way, I'm kind of surprised Moffat didn't try to do something like that.
I mean, the closest we get to that is the return to Satellite 5 in 2005. But that was 2 separate episodes farther apart.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, the 4.5 does not change the 4.6 average of the arc. Therefore, it does not go anywhere in our rankings. So that takes us from our previous stuff and into our summary.
Summary. Okay.
Summary.
Samaria. Summarily. Okay. Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, we're here.
Yep.
Yep. Is the stopwatch ready?
Yep. Okay, guys, you want a timer? All right.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, begin.
Okay, so a bunch of famous writers are together in a palace place in Geneva. Lord Byron, Mary Wollstonecraft, who's married to, or going to be married to Percy Shelley, Dr. Polidori, and a woman, Claremont. And the storm is raging outside, and Lord Byron says, "Hey, let's pass the time." And Mary says, "Ooh, let's tell ghost stories." Then there's a knock on the door. It's the Doctor and her companions, Ryan, Graham, and Yaz. They've been stuck in the rain. But they asked if they can be let in. And we find out that the Doctor has brought them here so they can witness the night that Mary Shelley created Frankenstein, but she warns them not to give it away, as that would alter the course of history. Like, she wants history to happen on its own. However, there is something wrong, because Percy Shelley is nowhere to be found. But Lord Byron doesn't seem to be too concerned about it, because he's too busy being a swingin' playa. Yeah. And they all dance together for a while. But then Graham goes looking for the bathroom, and he gets lost, and it's discovered that the house is a spooky house, that it's a maze where if you go up the stairs, you find out you end up downstairs again. And people see ghosts, and Ryan gets strangled by a skeleton hand, and it's discovered that Lord Byron has been keeping the remains of a dead soldier in a trunk, like you do, and they've been seeing the specter of a ghost. The Doctor finds out that the ghost that they're seeing is really a Cyberman from the future, which brings to mind the warnings of Captain Jack. Beware the lone Cyberman, don't give him what he wants. It turns out that the lone Cyberman is looking for Percy Shelley, who picked up some silver thing from the bottom of a pond, and it's it's like the USB Bluetooth of all data history of the Cybermen, and now it's in his brain, and it's driving him insane in the membrane. And the Doctor and Percy Shelley meet, and the Doctor drags the takes the Cyberium, which is the Cyberman history thingy, out of his brain and into her, and the Cyberman man is sent away, and Mary Shelley is inspired by all these events to write Frankenstein, but there's no rest for the wicked because the Doctor and her companions go out to look for where they happened in the Cybermen. Look for the Cybermen in the future. The end.
That was a little bit strained, but you managed to do it in 4 minutes, 22 seconds.
All right.
Oh,
So,
cool.
a couple of things before we move on. I would really like to know how the Cybermen got a hold of the fifth ed monster Crawling Claw. And
Yeah.
Siberiad, wasn't the last time we heard something like that? Or the Siberium, wasn't the last time we heard something like that? The Siberiad from
Yeah.
Nightmare in Silver?
Yeah, I think they forgot about that.
Yep.
Flippin'
I just wanted to point that out.
whoops.
But now we're going to go on to our historical fact check on the 5 members at the Villa Diodati and the house itself. While they kind of show the house being haunted in this, there is no actual history of the Villa Diodati showing any kind of spectral activity. Just I thought you might want to know.
Might as well throw that out there, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
So let's look at the characterization of the characters. Lord Byron was kind of portrayed as being a self-absorbed character, and they were pretty much on the money there. Everything I see about Lord Byron, I don't know if he would have that moment of cowardice like he did, hiding behind somebody, but
Right. I think that was more to show his disdain of Claire,
but he
which is absolutely historically accurate.
he was basically kind of a vain, self-absorbed ponce who had a charismatic aura about him that did kind of make the women swoon, but there's one of those in every generation.
And
Talking
eventually a
about
lot of the
Byron, I
women would
think-
see through him eventually anyway, so yeah.
Talking about Byron, I may have found the origin of why they included the skeleton in the episode.
Oh.
Apparently, he made a sarcastic comment once that he was haunted by a skeleton.
But so let's go on. Mary Shelley. She was portrayed decently in this. I mean, again, these were very private people in the fact that, they kind of went off and did their own thing. Did you look up more on Mary Shelley, Bill?
A little bit. I actually got fixated on the fact that the first article I read got confused about her stepsister's name. And I was fact-checking that because I thought it was a mistake in the episode, but it was more a mistake on biography.com than anything else. But I had looked her up a little bit. She did have a son at that time. He only lived to be like 3 years old and died.
Yeah, actually, that was her second son, by the way.
I thought she had a daughter and then William as the first son.
The first
daughter that died shortly after childbirth.
Yes, and that left her horribly depressed until the birth of William. And then, of course, losing William.
Yeah.
But at that time, she was not married to Percy Shelley. They married the following December. So that much is correct. Although I think they mentioned she was calling herself Mrs. Shelley at that point. So.
And I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I can't tell for certain. I haven't seen exactly anything on that. I know at that point they were very loose. I mean, the Byronic movement is kind of the predecessor to the free love movement of the 60s. So they were a little fast and free. The whole concept of even being in a relationship before marriage was horribly, horribly scandalous in the early 1800s.
Although it is worth noting with regard to that, even though Mary didn't really know her, her mother was one of the earliest feminist writers, so she might have been tickled by that. I don't know. She didn't really live to comment on that.
The most interesting character in here that I thought differed the most from the characterization is Claire Claremont, who Claire was not her name. She kept changing her name.
Okay, so that might be why, because most sources I see refer to her as Claire Mary Jane Claremont, or just Claire Claremont.
Claire Claremont, before that she was Clara Claremont,
Hmm.
and I think she was Jane Claremont.
That's what biography.com was saying. That's what I was
Was her
fact checking
birth
before.
name.
Okay.
Because she thought the
Mhm.
name Claire sounded more romantic.
And I believe Mary Jane Claremont was her mother's name, so that might be part of it. Like in terms of with the back and forth and whatnot.
She was Clara Mary Jane Claremont at one point,
Mhm.
according to Wikipedia, and then during the time before this, she did change her name 2-3 times. She and Claire Claremont was nowhere near as decent as she was shown in this. Claire Claremont was a tag along. She thought she could hitch her star to more famous creative people and thus be remembered as a better person. Kind of like Ron Weasley in Harry Potter. Only her idea of hitching herself to a star was sleeping with them. I mean, because here she is surrounded, her stepsister, Mary Shelley's a creative person. Percy Shelley is a creative person, a poet. And they hang out with Lord Byron, who is this big romantic poet. So she does this. She gets infatuated with Byron to the point that at this point, she's actually pregnant with Byron's child. And unlike this, where she sees through Byron at the end of the episode and walks away, she never did in real life. She continued to hound Byron and follow him around Europe, to the point that Byron was just absolutely fed up with her. When she finally went back to England to have Allegra, her child with Byron, eventually, and then she just kept writing Byron constantly until he eventually agreed to raise the child on the
So he
distance
has
that
ruined
Claremont
history, is
stay
what
the
you're saying.
fuck away from him.
Oof.
And then later on, she kept bitching because he wouldn't let her see Allegra, and eventually Allegra died from either typhus or malaria, something that she completely blamed Byron for and turned up hating him. But Byron wasn't the only person that she tried to attach herself to. Later on, she met Edward John Trelawney, something like that, who she also tried to send him love letters pleading with her to marry him, but yeah. Actually, that was the other way around. Trelawney sent her love letters, but she was done with that. But I think she might have been bitter by then. She eventually converted to
Catholicism?
Catholicism late in life, even though she was pretty much an atheist back at the point here with Lord Byron. But yeah, she was kind of a nut job, to say the least. Also, there are rumors that she also was involved in an affair with Percy Shelley.
Mm-hmm.
These are rumors. They were denied by both Percy, Claire, and Mary Shelley. But who knows? Apparently, they might have had a child in 1919, but they don't know who. And I'm not sure if Percy and Mary were together by then too. Kind of hard to tell. John Polidori is the least established character in there. There's very little written on Polidori. I do not see any references of him having sleepwalking.
Although I wonder if I haven't. Have you read The Vampire by any chance?
I have not.
So I'm wondering if that might have some connection to that. Because I know a lot of earlier vampire stories had to do with things like sleepwalking.
I do know that he did write The Vampire, but it was based in part on something Byron wrote called, which was just a story fragment. One of the differences between this and that, and I think this was just done for convenience, is the fact that they were reading Tales of the Dead at the beginning of this. However, in the in the real life, they were reading the original version of that, which was Phantasmagoriana. Phantasmagoriana, which was a French collection of German horror tales. When it was translated to English, part of it was translated into English later and called Tales of the Dead, or slightly before the events here happened. So they might have just used Tales of the Dead for convenience, so they didn't have to have him reading in French.
Apparently, Polidori was known for having an interest in somnambulism and trance states. So at the very least, it's connected to him whether or not he actually did sleepwalk.
One thing that this did not show, which was probably very much the case, is that like a lot of creative people when doing creative stuff, probably more drugs and alcohol were in use at the time. I think we did see some wine, but this being the 19th century, I suspect absinthe would have been involved.
Quite likely.
Absinthe, possibly laudanum, which, as you know, is an opiate. Anyway, that's pretty much...
Especially since they knew they weren't going anywhere with the weather.
Yeah. It's basically, let's get high, let's get stoned, let's get drunk, let's get creative. Yeah.
Our kids? Oh, the servants will take care of them.
Yeah. That's the other thing. There were probably more staff at the Villa Diodati than what we saw.
Which was probably just a budget issue more than anything else. They're not going to load it up with... They're not going to load it up with extras for no reason.
I mean, we saw a valet, and then we saw the one French person that I think it was Herlane or something that wound up getting killed.
Yeah.
And that's the only two servants there. No, there would have been about 5 servants there at least. There would have been a cook. There would have been...
I guess Polidori is technically a servant. He was the doctor.
Yeah, but I mean, there would have been a... He was Byron's personal physician. He was not attached to the house. There would have been servants directly attached to the house. There would have been a cook, a maid. The valet was probably attached to the house. There probably would have been a couple of maids, and then probably a more a butler, manservant type as well. But
and maybe 1 or 2 others attached personally to them for like watching over the kids or something too, possibly.
There probably would have been a nanny, wet nurse, something like that. And for budget reasons, they just cut it down to 2 people who were, quickly killed.
Although all of them could have gotten quickly killed, you just have to plan it right.
Yes, but then they would have had to pay them. Yeah.
Well, not as much if they have less time, but anyway.
Anyway, let's move on from historical fact check to Big Finish versus TV. Big Finish, about 10 years ago, a little longer, also had a story that took place this exact same night.
Yes.
And almost started the exact same way. Only this
a dark and stormy night is a trope that must be...
I mean, I meant with them reading from the book, and then there was a knock at the door.
Right.
And in both cases, the knock turned out to be the doctor.
I believe in
However-
both cases they remarked on how unnatural the storm seemed.
Mm-hmm. However, in this case, that's where the similarities end.
Mm-hmm.
What's
The
the big finish
characters,
title?
it's called Mary's Story. It was
Yep.
part of a collection called, what was it? I do not have my iTunes open.
Company of Friends. Was the
Company
name
of
of the
Friends.
collection.
Yes. But anyway, that is where the similarities end. The main characters were portrayed much differently in the Big Finish version. Basically, the other members of there, other than Mary, who was basically given the spotlight, were all basically treated like assholes.
Especially Percy.
Yeah, Mary was supposed to be on the outs with Percy Shelley in that particular story, which, considering they got married 6 months later in real life, seems to be a bit much.
Mhm. Well,
They
that's
did,
after she spent years traveling in the TARDIS.
which would have been noticeable.
Hmm.
Just saying.
Yeah, because she was only 20.
The fact that that story ignores the fact that Percy and Mary had a child at this point never came up in it.
Mm-hmm.
Also did imply that Percy was sleeping with Claire.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of it kind of treated them all kind of like ass. Other
It is
than that,
interesting comparing, considering that it seemed Mary definitely went to her grave denying any relationship between Claire and Percy. Yet in the Big Finish story, that's pretty much, I think, one of the first things that she says to him
yeah,
about her personal life.
that seems to be a little weird. Other than that, there's like no variance between there. I mean, technically, they meet the Eighth Doctor twice. They at least mentioned taking laudanum a few times in the Big Finish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Big Finish is a little more adult than TV Doctor Who. Claire does. She never takes her leave of Byron in the Big Finish the way she does on TV. Instead, he just keeps very blatantly telling her to fuck off, and she keeps pursuing him.
That was actually more accurate to real life than the
Mhm.
the TV version.
He's like, "Take a hint, woman," and she's like, "Oh, can I come in?"
Mm-hmm. I'd rather write with you. No. Yeah.
And I'd rather write alone.
Yeah. It's just that's closer to the proper Claire and Byron, but yeah, it's kind of the Shelleys kind of get the short end of the stick in that, and Polidori is just kind of there, but he's just kind of there in the TV version too, other than the sleepwalking bit.
Well, in the TV version, he challenges Graham to a duel.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything about that either. About Polidori doing duels, so I think they.
Yeah, I should have looked that up. I did not.
I looked for it. I couldn't find it. I think because there's so little written on Polidori that they just made up shit.
They turned him into Aaron Burr.
Kind of. They knew it was the era of duels, so they said, let's just have them do one. Anyway,
Tell them to threaten to do one.
Anyway, so that's what we can tell on the Big Finish version TV. Personally, I like the TV version better, and I'm kind of glad that they revamped history on this one.
I do too, but it does make me wonder what happened to the 2 years that Mary and the Doctor traveled together.
Again, just kind of thrown it in the wastebasket, because I do not think Mary was one of the people mentioned by Paul McGann when he was reciting his list of companions.
Nope.
I think you're correct. I think yeah, I do not believe she was listed in Night of the Doctor.
And the fact that they since this was a 2009 release and they filmed Night of the Doctor in 2013, that might have been a deliberate omission. So apparently the TV universe, that never happened.
Yeah, it might be also a case of they thought, well, we might handle her at some point on TV, so best not to name drop.
Yep. Well, that would have just been Mary, you know?
Yeah.
That could have been anybody.
Yeah. But still, they didn't, so.
I'm trying
Anyway.
to find the list, but
Let's go to our review.
Yeah.
What did we like about this episode? And Thomas, you are first.
I'm trying to think if there was anything else I could go with, but you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna go with the Cyberman. Just it's a very thing of like outside of this and the next 2 episodes or next one, or you know, depends on how much we see of him. This is the only time I want them to do this, and then never again. But like in isolation as the first of its kind thing of like the cyber conversion isn't fully in effect, so there's still emotional. To me, I liked it and thought it worked. But yeah, it is just a problem of like just gotta hope they keep it to just like this one character.
Well,
It's not
I'm
something I would
suspecting that the fact that
necessarily.
he's operating without the emotional inhibitor is just that he's that much of a zealot.
Yeah, because
Could
they
be,
do
yeah.
seem to imply that this guy willingly got cyber converted as opposed to just some guy that they dragged off
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
necessarily.
All right. Anything else?
Uh,
Not that you need to go into another category, just anything else on the Cyberman.
oh yeah, but nah, not that I can really think of.
Okay, Matt.
I definitely like the mood setting for this one. Not even just the fact that it's all in a storm, but they kept everything outside very minimal and only show us a little bit here and there when we needed to see outside, and then we just kept the rest of it to creepy old, mostly dark house with a few of them a few rooms that are well lit.
Yeah, the creep show effect was really good in this.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be mine, and you just took it from me.
Ta-da!
Ass.
Oh, there's plenty to like about this one. Don't even at me.
Tim.
On a technical note, I really loved the cinematography in this episode, especially like with it seemed like they were using very natural lighting for the time period of like all like dark and shadowy with at least candlelight type things.
So that you could not believe that this was done on a set with
Yeah, like it created a very good immersion, I think.
So the director on this was Emma Sullivan. I think she did a good job.
Yep.
Not sure that's entirely on the
Agree.
director, but definitely the lighting person that they hired for this one.
Well, he was complimenting the cinematography, so that's usually the
So
director.
it's
but I
a
agree
combination of the both, yeah.
yeah. Depending if there's a separate DP.
also the fact that the director would be looking at it and going, "No, we need it darker. We need it." Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a team effort, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Bill?
So I realized what I was going to say before was more of a scene. So I think I'm going to go with the actress that plays Mary. I just think there's something about the energy she has. Like, you know, you kind of you're interested in this character. And of course, as the writer of Frankenstein, you want to have that feeling about her. You want to say, okay, this is someone that's going to go on and, you know, change sci-fi. And I feel the kind of energy she gives off is the kind you want for that character. I don't know if it's historically accurate, but it's no better or worse than Big Finish by any means.
Well, the Big Finish one, by the way,
And we-
just to touch on that, kind of did the
Okay.
Frankenstein references with a hammer.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
they were in your face, and not all of them were Mary Shelley's.
No, yeah, to the point where it was like Percy got possessed by the time storm. It was kind of weird. That's one thing I'm glad they did not include.
Yeah. I mean, they were doing Frankenstein quotes, not only from that, but from the freaking 31 movie. Um, and having them being said by the other people. So Mary Shelley just basically just rewrote what happened and changed the names
We bit on the
to make
nosy.
Frankenstein. Whereas this, in this, you can see where Shelley would have wrote it based on the idea of what happened rather than.
Yeah.
I'm more talking about just like the way the actress engages with the scene. Like she has that a certain the way she's energetic, almost in the way you'd expect a quasi companion to be, and something that you would like to see from, an influential author of that sort if you're a fan of sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what I liked about the episode, I think I really just liked the acting overall. It really came out very well. Nobody seemed to be signing in their roles, including all the guests and everybody. Seemed great. I mean, everything that the Cybermen did was a snarl or a sneer.
For most of it, at least. Yeah, he had a
Yeah.
few other moments.
He had a
in
few
there.
other moments, but only where it was really appropriate for him to.
Mm-hmm.
But almost every other line he said was snarled or sneered, and it was perfect. Byron was a twat, and that was perfect. Polidori was there, but the acting was good for somebody who was just there.
Yeah.
Claire was out of character historically, but in character for how she was written. And yeah, I thought they did rather well. All right, so what did we dislike about it, Thomas?
Let's see. God, just trying to think if I did have an overall. I guess since it's never really a one scene. I mean, there's like a scene I could bring it up with, but it's more of a general thing. It's more of a nitpick than anything because I can't really think of much else, but I want to say something. Just kind of how easily they forget about the people who die in a way. It's just like, oh, well, that happened. See ya. We're never gonna bring you up again. In the rest of the episode.
I think most of that though, they're worried about their lives.
True, but like, yeah, it's where it sort of ties into a scene. The Doctor goes on that whole spiel, but then it's like, well, you didn't seem to care too much when those other two people died. But yeah, it's just like,
well, they weren't
for lack
famous
of
writers.
anything else.
Yeah, he was a valet, she was a maid, or a housekeeper, or a wet
The-
nurse, or something.
Yeah, although that kind of does go against the whole I've never met anyone who wasn't important. Because clearly here she's drawing a line between who is and is not important.
Yeah, again, just more of a nitpick because I just couldn't really think of anything else.
All right, Matt.
Oh, I had something just a minute. Negative. Oh, right. My number one thing that I will say, this is obviously a nitpick, but I was slightly annoyed by the fact that the companions basically really didn't do anything this episode.
Yeah,
We had one moment with Graham watching over the guy and then seeing the ghosts. We had one moment with Ryan where he gets shouted into having a duel. We have one moment
Yaz
with
fucks up the
Yaz
time
who
stream.
gets to talk to the gal who was trying to break into that room. That's about it.
yeah, they really had a
Yaz convinces Claire to go off track of history.
Basically.
when does she do that?
She
The
has
scene
that
where they're at
talk
the
about
door.
Byron and then
yeah. Oh yeah,
she
that's
ends up
true.
going-
That may have actually been what was the alter point of history. Fuck you, Yaz.
Mhm.
Yes,
I
fuck
mean,
to
to be
history.
fair-
Thanks, yes.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there has been plenty of people who were like, oh, "Yeah, I'm never having anything to do with you again." Next day, completely
Mm.
just back to
Okay,
normal.
that's true.
Yeah, that is also possible.
All
A
right,
week later,
Tim.
you lonely?
Tim, how about you? Anything you disliked about the episode?
I really didn't like the character on the episode of Dr. Polidori, because it seems like he was set up to be like this dark and mysterious thing, and then they just sort of dropped it. Like he went from being a like an anti-social person to just being like someone there, and then at the end of the episode, he's just another person with all is like there's no explanation for his character. Like it wasn't a character arc; it was a character derailment, I think.
Personally,
Hmm.
I just think the doctor slipped him a bottle of melatonin.
Oh.
It's a shame the doctor didn't
Definitely serious.
hypnotize anyone. For that, we haven't really seen that on screen in a while.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, Bill.
So I don't like that they kind of just gave up and basically were saying this is a ghost story. We don't have to explain it. They did.
Oh,
They were
at
like,
the end of that?
they said some of it was Percy, and he was like, but some of it wasn't me. And they were like, but there's no such thing as ghosts, are there? Are there? I don't know. Are there? Are there?
I think that was deliberate choice on them to try to keep that a mystery.
Yeah, but
Mm.
I wasn't a fan of that deliberate choice. I feel like I don't know. It's I don't know. It goes against what a
If
lot of
if
Doctor
it
Who
was a
does.
ghost,
I
why would a
think.
ghost make him a sandwich?
Yeah, I
My
almost
house
thought
is
that
on
was
the
gonna.
ghost. Make me a sandwich.
Yes,
Ham
that's
and cheese on rye.
Uh,
Old
that's
mayo.
true of all the unexplained things. I mean, unless Percy brought him the sandwich and then the ghost just showed up, but that would be just as weird. So I don't really know.
yeah.
Supposedly,
Graham is just-
supposedly
Yeah.
the food hasn't been there very long, and the ghost just randomly showed
Un-
up with food.
Unless Graham is just a really powerful telepath.
Mind over matter. I was
In
hungry, so my
hindsight-
mind generated a sandwich out of the psychic ether.
I was
Yes,
like,
sir.
which also created these two ghosts. Thank you, ghosts. I didn't hear you come in. Thank you.
Mm. In hindsight, it was kind of weird how that never had any payoff of like, wait, so was the food like actually really old and rotten? And you just
That was what
didn't
I was waiting
notice?
for.
I would have loved that.
My
That would've
theory is
been
just that they're
absolute
ghosts, and
creep
one of
show.
them was a caretaker, so they happened to make the
Yeah.
hungry guy who was left alone a sandwich while he was trapped there.
Like if they were like if he closed his eyes and he was like they were like see through the perception filter and he put his hand on it and maggots started crawling on his hand.
Ooh, no thanks.
All right, so what I
Mm.
didn't like is how much of this concept was stolen from other things, including other episodes of Doctor Who and other science fiction genres. I spent the first part of this with the crawling hand going, I swear if something pops out of someplace going, I'll swallow your soul, I'm done. Then we got to the Cyberman showing up, and while it's all a bit while that's a bit Terminator, at the same time they stole the whole concept liberally from Army of Ghosts Doomsday. Only instead of traveling from another dimension, they're traveling through time, yet it's the same
Mhm.
visual effect.
Mm.
More or less. That's not exact, but it is more or less a similar effect.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Cybermen had a very kind of Terminator Borg feel, and I'm
Mm.
just like, and then by the end, the
Yeah.
Doctor has to make the moral decision, basically right out of The Beast Below.
Mm.
I'm like, really? Is there anything else you want to steal from?
I
Guys?
guess to latch on to that, all the lightning, the figure coming down from lightning. In Spyfall, there was all that weird sort of electrical shit going on in that alternate like dimension or whatever the fuck. So
I
for
was
a
wondering
minute,
that too
I
for a
was like,
moment.
"Oh my god, is this the Master coming back?"
Ha!
So, and it wasn't, but I was like, "Oh well, Cyberman, hey, that's still
I was actually
interesting."
thinking that was a possibility too for a moment, and then it's like, oh wait, never mind. Hi.
Okay, favorite scene.
Oh god, I feel like I had it, but it's it now. Oh god, what's it? Yeah, god, it was a little moment from what I can remember. Oh god, I'm blanking. So I'll just go with another one. If I remember it, I'll bring it up later. So, oh god, what's an alt? I guess just as much as everyone, I feel like some people are gonna not like this scene, but I actually kind of liked when the Doctor starts delegating. Like everyone's like, but Jack said don't do this, and he's like, and she's just like, well, Jack's not here, so I've got to make. It's my fucking decision to make. Like, like this is on me. Like, you want to vote, whatever, make up your own minds, but like this is my fucking call to make. So
All right. Matt.
Cyberman walks into a room, looks around, gets annoyed, brushes things off as they crash to the floor. Doctor suddenly just a few feet away. If you're looking for something, you just ask me. Roars, flips table. You're not gonna find it under there either. You at least could have looked a little harder first. Essentially, and just the conversation between the two of them from there. It was really interesting getting to figure out what's up with this Cyberman.
All right. Tim.
The Doctor going Wile E. Coyote and running into the invisible wall when she says, "All I have to do is go through this door that we know is there." And then all the actors give that "ooh" face. Like that. I found that very
That's
amusing.
gotta hurt face.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt face.
All right. So, Bill.
This is favorite scenes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So mine is related to that one, and it's after they discover the perception filter, and they're subverting it by closing their eyes. And I love the scene where they're turning the doorknob, but you can't see the doorknob, and they're just. It was shot really well, and I just enjoyed that visual.
So, my favorite scene was Mary Shelley's epic speech to the Cyberman. I thought that was just a great, let's buy some time. And she almost seemed to turn the Cybermen, and then they turned it on their heels and said, no, I'm really a dick.
No, I'm really a horrible, horrible person even before I became a Cyberman.
Yep.
Yeah.
I spared your child because your child will become one of us anyways.
Because he's weak. And yeah, I had kids. I killed them. I mean, if they were going to make it any more cheesy, it'd be fat bastards. I ate a baby. It's at this point. I'm just, yeah. I'm just like, okay, yep. You're just making him a pretty much total monster. Got it. All right, least favorite scenes. Thomas.
I guess, like, I've seen people have issue with this for a very specific reason, but on a rewatch, the only real reason I have an issue with the scene I'm going to mention is just because who we're specifically talking about, and that is the spiel of, if Percy Shelley dies now, like, that'll fuck up the entire world that you were, like, the future you come from won't exist and all this and blah. And I'm just like, prior to this episode, I had no idea who Percy Shelley was. I know who Mary Shelley is, but I have no idea who anyone else in this
He is a poet
episode
of some
is.
note.
I did wonder that how many people were actually that inspired by his poetry, because I also knew of him as Mary Shelley's concubine, and I did not know that he had fame other than that.
Oh yeah. He is considered one of the major English romantic poets, along with Byron.
So there you go.
He was very influential in the circuit with Byron, Keats, Leigh Hunt, Thomas Love Peacock. So yeah.
The fact that I don't know any of those names just says that the
You
question
don't know
is still
Keats?
hanging. Nope.
Byron Keats.
Byron and Keats. John Keats. He's very big.
So did romantic poetry like change the world, or?
Yes, it did.
Back in the day, Bill, they're probably bored enough. Yes, it did.
I mean,
yeah, like
Keats is usually in the same sentence as Wadsworth. As some
Guess
of the
it's a
great
better love story than Twilight.
Yeah.
Oh, I guarantee you, by far.
Yeah, like I remember, like the video I watched that made me think about this scene specifically was someone saying that the issue they had specifically was more so that it felt more like the writers speaking through the doctor of like, writers are very important because we're writers and we're going to put this in the episode. More than
That
like
is a bit
it
of a
seeming like something the
self-inserted
doctor would
oof.
say necessarily.
I'm so important. I'm gonna make sure you're all aware that I'm important.
At least it's not about a novelist from Maine.
Percy Shelley was the inspiration for some people, including Oscar Wilde,
Oh,
Leo
okay.
Tolstoy,
Yeah.
W.B. Yeats, George Bernard Shaw,
Oh, okay. I'm aware of that one too.
Thomas Hardy. Yeah, so Henry David Thoreau was inspired. His Civil Disobedience was apparently influenced by Percy Shelley's writings. So again, it's ripples. Ripples
It
making
is ripples. I know mostly Oscar Wilde due to Mr. Science Theater.
Tolstoy himself had a was an inspiration for Martin Luther King Jr. So again
and again.
So therefore, without Percy
and this
Shelley,
is why there's that old trope: no matter what you do when you travel through time, the end result is Nazis. You take away the romantic poet, and now Martin Luther King becomes a Nazi.
I didn't say it's just he might not have been as influential. It might have turned the course of the civil rights movement. You never know. It is literally butterflies.
You cause ripples in the ocean of history. No more chicken in a biscuit.
Although I say that in 2020 when the political reality is Nazi flags.
Nazis.
So, yep.
Yeah, somebody stepped on a butterfly. That's why we've got Nazis.
Yeah. God damn it, goddamn time travelers.
Okay. So, Matt, your least favorite scene?
I've been actually hard pressed to think of one that I really disliked. I will say that all of the main cast really seemed nonchalant about seeing all of their caretakers dead.
All right.
I'll go with that particular scene, and that's about it.
The rather ignominious end to Graham's search for the loo. It's like, I can't find the loo. It's right there, underneath the table. It's like, oh, that's nice.
Oh, fantastic.
He's not gonna piss in a pot. I'll hold it. Yeah. Bill, your least favorite scene?
So this isn't like an awful scene, but in the context of what's going on, the fact that the lightning resurrection scene happened when Mary wasn't even in the same room bothered me.
With the Cyberman?
You mean the Cyberman recharge?
Yeah, he recharged with lightning, and I'm like, there's this whole connection to Frankenstein, and Mary doesn't see it. It just bothers me.
Yeah, it would
Yep.
have actually been perfect if just as you see the sparks start flying off of him, she steps into the room and just goes, "Oh dear."
Yeah.
And
Or
then you
even,
see
like,
him
she just
wheel
opened a
around and you
door
see
or
all the
something.
lights brightened up
Yeah.
and he's finally able to shoot and then they both panic and run.
Mm.
So, yeah, my least favorite scene is the dance with them basically gossiping about each other. Just really seems kind of petty.
Well, even better yet, well, actually, I think it was all to be a joke because the first bit of gossiping is the fact that Byron didn't like gossiping. That's what they're all doing in the room.
So they're
Blame it on the
basically just
laudanum.
they're just teasing they're just basically teasing Byron.
But probably, in part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was like the typical BBC period drama scene. Kind of.
I do think it would have worked better, like an actual ball with a lot of people. It's a lot easier to hide your gossip than
Yeah.
your 4 friends and 4 strangers.
Yeah, but I think they were. I'm liking it better now that I didn't hear that line about Byron not liking gossip.
Oh,
So that puts it in a little better light for me.
yeah, that's like the first line of that exchange.
Yeah, that's the first line out of him and between him and the doctor, and all the other lines are the others gossiping with the companions.
But I think Byron also is in on the gossiping, so
Technically, he
it's
is
like,
at one point.
"Oh,
Yes.
I don't like gossip, but I did hear this one thing.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm going to change mine to any scene where Byron's hitting on the doctor. That was just creepy.
That was somewhat awkward. Yes. He was very quick to that.
Yep. But at least
Yeah.
he didn't snog Byron.
Oh yeah, if that had turned into a romantic thing, I would have been.
That's
no.
one difference between her and the 10th Doctor.
The 10th Doctor can go ahead and snog Madame de Pompadour.
Oh yeah, that's perfectly fine. But even the 10th Doctor would look at this guy, and go, nah.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, she might have caught something off of him.
Now, if she had snogged Nikola Tesla,
Ooh.
I might have gone with that.
Although Tesla, by all accounts, was either asexual or gay, so maybe not.
Don't know. We don't know. We're not in his head.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could just be that he met the doctor and no one else could compare.
No one like you.
So he's the Virgin King.
I'm just saying. You know, there's other excuses. Yeah.
There's other excuses as to we don't know what official canon is in real life.
We don't know the mind of Tesla, and no one's ever said for sure.
So we could just pass it by as, oh, he met the doctor and no one ever compared.
Yeah. Whereas, yeah, the whole Byron thing was just creepy because he's such a freaking twat.
As a matter of fact, if I would assume that if he got too pushy about it, the doctor would likely smack him upside his head.
That would have been a great moment for some Venusian Aikido.
Just smack
normally
up.
I
He
don't
goes
turn
up.
violence, but kick in the dick. Yeah.
Actually, yeah. To just have a little liner from her going, normally I would say I'm sorry if I hurt you, but you know what? Nah. Just leave him there for a moment.
I don't think we've had anyone like seriously sexually harass this doctor, which I mean is kind of a good thing because it gets old if it happens to every female character, but it would could be relevant to get depending on the story it was in.
Yeah, you would have to be very choosy about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have to be very choosy about who it was and how they go about it. But anyway, yeah.
Final thoughts.
I enjoyed this episode. There are like some things here and there that it's like, or whatever, or it's just like on further watching, you're just kind of like, okay, I can kind of see the cracks here and there. But even then, I would say this is a good episode. It'll be interesting. It's kind of interesting in a way to think that the next two are technically supposed to be the two-parter when this could arguably be the first part of a three-parter.
I debated that all afternoon.
Yeah, it's debatable, but it does kind of have at least a pseudo ending for this part of it.
At the very
Yes.
least, it's sort of utopia-ish.
And they-
It's
Sort
making
of.
it's
Well, actually,
making
no,
me
it's role-playing.
reconsider my thought on whether Utopia should be part of the other two.
Mm.
But in any case, the acting was all good. Everything looked good. It was nice to see the companions in period appropriate clothing again. And just as an add-on, a scene that I did like that I forgot to that completely spaced on me until now was she's from some weird place. Yeah, north.
The North,
Yes. She's. They're not
I forgot
from the
about that.
colonies,
Yeah,
are
that did
they?
happen this episode.
They're from somewhere far stranger.
the
North.
North.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
north.
I smirked at that on my second watch through.
Lots
Yeah,
of
I
planets
definitely
have a
say
north.
this is but I generally say this episode is worth a watch.
All right, Matt.
My overall feeling on this one is that it's a really darn solid episode. There are a few little things that I can point at and go, here's a little pinky hole of a problem. But I have to say that I think this is probably one of the better episodes this season.
All right, Tim.
This was a okay episode in my book. No major problems except like what we already said. I do agree that the companions didn't have very much to do, but I liked the atmosphere of the old Gothic house, and the design of the makeup design of the half Cyberman himself was interesting. I would recommend people watch this episode.
All right, Bill.
So I found it a little of a mixed bag, and that was largely because I'm a big Finnish fan. I've enjoyed stories with Mary, so this leaves her in this kind of weird Schrodinger state of, well, what the fuck?
Get
Then
over
again,
it.
that's kind of the whole
That's your
Eighth
own personal
Doctor's
issue,
life.
Bill.
Hey, that's why it's my final thoughts. I also am not quite sold on the relationship between the Cybermen and Frankenstein the way they used it. That said, I liked the way they handled the characters, everything from the first half of the episode, and in my mind, it's almost like a two-parter with a haunted house story followed by a Cyberman story. But the first part of that non-existent two-parter, I think everything's done really great if you ignore the contradiction with previous lore. The Cyberman stuff, I'm a lot more iffy on. It also depends on if how well the Doctor can actually pull off the clusterfuck that she just caused. So, but yeah, I'd say mostly good, little bit of not so good.
All right. So I liked this episode, and I think Bill needs to remove the stick. Basically, I found the acting enjoyable. Most of the direction was enjoyable. The writing was smooth. My only complaint is that there was a lot of derivativeness in some of the setup and execution. A lot of it from previous episodes, without actually referencing the previous episodes. God damn it, how can you not have an episode where they're trapped in this endless cycle of rooms, top to bottom, and not mention recursive occlusion?
Mm-hmm.
Or Castrovalva? Oh, God, that's the second time this season where they said something that it's like, God, this could have been a throwback reference to another episode in just a one sentence and you couldn't say it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that,
Well,
no,
there's no such thing as continuity in Doctor Who.
Fuck that. One of these days, all the dick kickings I owe you are going to add up. I'm just going to come at you with a baseball bat.
Hey,
You're going to come out of your
that-
place, and I'm
that
there
was
like
Chibnall.
freaking Jay and Silent Bob going,
That wasn't my opinion. That was Chibnall.
yeah. But you had to bring it up.
Considering I just bitched about continuity.
Anyway, let's go to our points. I believe Thomas is first.
Yep. Looking at everything else that I've given this series, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm just gonna give it a 4.
Ooh.
All right. Matt.
Oh gosh. Um, I think it's just close enough. This might slide into a 5 for me.
Really?
Yeah,
All right.
I think it's just close enough.
All right, Tim.
I will side with Matt and give this 5.
Ooh.
Bill.
Speaking of wanting to kick me in the dick,
Oh, Bill.
I'm torn between two ratings, but I'm just the amount that I dislike the ending causes it to slide just that bit from the 3.75 to properly fall into the 3.5 category. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
I really want to give it a 0.75, but
I think Matt's going to be the J to my Silent Bob. You're just going to come out of the house today, and we're just going to be sitting there, or we're going to be standing there, one of us whacking a baseball bat in their hand.
Aren't you going to be the one with the baseball bat? Well, I'm the one with the letter going. Do you happen to be Bill Sylvia?
Oh, except we don't have to do that because we know who he is. It's going to be episode 500 of An Unearthly Podcast is Matt and Rand beat the hell out of Bill. We're just going to have it live streamed. It's going to be like Office Space, only you're the machine.
I have a baseball cap on backwards, and I'm wearing my trench coat with a baseball bat. Sure, we can do this. Hey, Bill, what's your address?
Cops show up. Flee, fat ass, flee! All right. So that's everybody but me. I'm going to give this a 4.5, and that was my rate, and that was what I was going to give it before everybody else put in their input. So that does absolutely nothing to the average, by the way, because it's currently averaging at a 4.4, making me correct. A 4.4 puts this really high in our rankings. Not the highest, but we'll put this at 73 out of 331 things reviewed.
Which, if my eyes aren't screwing up on me, this is also the highest of the series.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
4.4.
You were more divisive about Skyfall?
Yeah, that's the highest thing that we've reviewed since Turn Left. So yeah, everything else 4.0, 3.0, 4.2, 4.0, 3.8, 4.1, and a 4.4. So yeah, this is the highest thing we've rated this season.
Oof.
And back to where we were, it is on par with the War Games, Terror of the Zygons, the Sontaran Stratagem, the Poison Sky, the Husbands of River Song, the Face the Raven, the Time Warrior, Partners in Crime, Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, ironically, the 11th Hour. It is better than the Battle of Ranskor Kolos. The Three Doctors, Nightmare in Silver, the Ice Warriors, the Dalek Invasion of Earth, the Web of Fear, etc. And is not as good as Rosa, the Woman Who Fell to Earth, the War Machines, the Invasion, the Rebos Operation, Thin Ice, World Enough in Time / The Doctor Falls, etc. So there we go. 72 or 73 out of 331 things reviewed. That is all we have to say about the Haunting of the Villa Diodati.
All right, so let's hear what you and the audience have to say in the YouTube and Twitch comments. Don't forget to like or dislike the episode if you feel that way. Let us know whether you agree with the 5s, the 4s, or the 3.5 on Villa Diodati.
Kick
And
you
don't
in the
forget to
dick.
subscribe so that you can get our reviews of the season finale two-parter.
All right, so next week we will be doing a non-voting episode, as we will look at the first part of the finale for Series 12 with Ascension of the Cybermen. Written by Chris Chibnall and starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien, Tosin Cole as Ryan Sinclair, and Mandeep Gill as Yasmin Khan. We will see you for that next week, and of course, the following week will be the final episode, The Timeless Children.
See you all later.
Bye bye.